In this video, I'm going to show you 7 of my favourite cookbooks to help you save money and talk you through what it is I like about each kind of cookbook and some special features in them so that you can make your own frugal library of cookbooks. Welcome back to Growing Frugal, and if this is your first time here, on this channel we're all about learning how to live a lower cost life, and we do this by growing food, by cooking creatively and by finding different ways to reduce our costs and save a bit of money. And today I thought I would take you through 7 of my favourite cookbooks to help you save money. So what I'm going to do is tell you why I've chosen each cookbook to give you a sense of how I think they can contribute to getting a bit frugal with your cooking whilst also eating amazing, healthy, ethical food, so that it doesn't have to be gruel frugal, which really puts me off when I think about saving money, if I think it's all going to be about gruel and boring food and eating repetitively. So as we go through, you'll see that these cookery books fall into 7 categories that I think are really useful when looking at building up a frugal cookbook library. And the categories are a leftovers book, an Indian food cookbook, a cookbook that helps you create lovely but frugal dinner parties, a soup recipe book, a plant-based diet recipe book, a pantry ingredients-based recipe book, and a one-pot recipe book. So watch out for those categories as we go through, and I'll tell you a bit more about them and why I think they can help you save money. And if you've got ideas for other kinds of categories or other cookbooks that have really helped you on your journey to saving money, please let me know in the comments below. And for those of you who aren't cookbook addicts like me, of course you can replicate all of this in an electronic system. It's all about learning the principles really of the kinds of skills and recipes that you might need to reduce your costs while still eating healthily and eating good ethical food. So let's do it. Let's start with number 1. So my first pick for a frugal library is to get yourself a good leftovers book, and this one is Save with Jamie, which is by Jamie Oliver. And getting good at cooking with leftovers is a really great thing to learn, because if we can cook up food and then use every little bit of what's left over, not only do we save time, but we also save money. And I really like this book by Jamie Oliver because, one, I love his cooking. It's simple, it's often using very easy ingredients and easy to adapt. And this book, Save with Jamie, has some really good sections in it about freezing food, what to keep in your pantry, what kind of equipment is helpful when you're looking at saving money. I love the concept of what Jamie Oliver calls the mothership, and that is to, if you're having a Sunday roast, I'll get a large leg of lamb or a large chicken or whatever, and so that I know there's going to be leftovers, but there's a plan ready and waiting for what to do with those leftovers. So your oven's only on once, and then you can use it for leftovers, and he's got some really great ideas in there. Lots of ideas for other ways to save money, like how to joint your own chicken, for instance. So it's a really great book, and I think it's the best one I have anyway in the category of leftover cooking. So the second category then is to learn to cook Indian food. So of all the international cuisines, I found that Indian food is almost naturally quite frugal. It tends to use a lot of meat on the bone, some of the cheaper cuts. It also uses a lot of pulses, a lot of lentils, nuts. It's a really varied cuisine, and of course is amazing to taste because of the creative use of herbs and spices. spices. And my favourite cookbook in this category is Anjum's New Indian by Anjum Anand. And I love it because it's got a really nice simple approach to Indian cooking, but the curries in there really have that flavour of what you might get in a really good Indian restaurant or a takeaway. So this book lets you learn some simple Indian authentic techniques so that when you cook a curry at home it tastes amazing. And for people like me who love curry and spiced food, if I can cook a really good curry, I'm less likely to be ordering out. But there's also some really special bits in it, including a glossary about herbs and spices and common ingredients in Indian cooking. So it has all of that educational material to get you feeling confident in the kitchen and that you can cook more Indian food, healthy, low cost, what's not to like. So my third category is to have a go-to cookery book so that you can throw good dinner parties for your friends and family. And eating out is one of the most expensive things you can do, and it's wonderful. I love to eat out, but eating out all the time, it's incredibly expensive. So why not have some fantastic menus at home so that you can serve up some food. Your friends can bring the drinks or the breads or the salads, and it saves money, and also it feels really great to throw a lovely dinner party and be that host. And my favourite book in this category is Plenty by Yotam Ottolenghi. And I wish you could feel this book because it's got the most amazing padded cover, really lovely texture, and it says it all about the book really. He does an awful lot of vegetarian recipes, very well known for a column in The Guardian for quite some time called, I think it was The New Vegetarian, and he's an amazing cook. He also cooks with meat and fish, but is pretty much kind of fits with a flexitarian lifestyle, I think, his cooking. So this is a great book to have for dinner parties when you're cooking for different people. And what I love about this book is that many of the recipes are just very, very simple, but they have been made into something super special by all of the herbs and spices that he uses, and he has an amazing touch. Now, with cooking for a dinner party, we do spend a bit extra, at least I do, and you do need to have in your pantry some of these ingredients that he uses that may not be your common and garden herbs and spices that you have, but it is still far cheaper than eating out to get in some herbs and spices and some unusual ingredients. Still going to save you money. So for example, in here I love the recipe for green couscous. So it's just ordinary couscous, very simple, very quick, very cheap ingredient, but it's combined with lots of herbs and spices and stuff, so it turns into an amazing side for whatever you're making. And I also find, because there are so many vegetables, that it really helps me use veg from the garden. So there's a lot of recipes for things like squash. So this is my favourite, but whatever your favourite style of cooking is, have yourself a cookbook in your library. That means that you can throw these great dinner parties where you feel good, and when you're happy to spend the time to put a little bit more effort into the cooking, and definitely less than eating out. In my fourth category is to have a really interesting and varied soup recipe book. And my favourite one here is published by the Soil Association. It's called The Soup Book, and it's edited by Sophie Grigson. And soup can really save us money. It's fantastic for when you've got some vegetables starting to go on the turn, they're getting a bit crinkly, they're past their best, or maybe you've got some veg where you need to cut out parts that are starting to rot away, or something's happened to them in the garden, and a soup is a welcoming home for all of that. It's cheap to make. If you have a good stock, whether it's vegetable, chicken stock or whatever, it can be really quite an amazing meal. And they save money because they're a great packed lunch food, they freeze really well, and they're great for leftovers too. It's good to have a very good cookery book that will give you some new ideas, switch it up a bit and get us making more soup. And this is my one. And some of the recipes in this book are really good if you're also a grower. So if you're growing food like me, you'll find in this book that there are recipes that will help you out during some of those gluts. So there's a lovely beetroot and apple soup recipe in here, and some roasted tomato soup. And there's a lovely chart in the back of the book based on the seasons here in the UK that shows you when different fruit and veg are in season, which also helps you buy cheaply. So a really good book by the Soil Association with a little bit more emphasis, I guess, on growing and local food and seasonal food. So always have a good soup book in your little frugal library. So fifth in my list is to get yourself a really good plant-based diet cookery book. And the one I have is the Bosch Cookery Book, which is by Henry Firth and Ian Thiesby. And there's no doubt whatsoever that eating more plant-based food will save you money, as well as saving the planet and good for your health and all the rest of it. So whether you're plant-based already or whether you're just trying to reduce your meat and dairy consumption, a good book helping you learn some ways to make really delicious plant-based food is a good asset in your library. And these two cooks here, they are really fun. They make plant-based cooking really accessible. And I found, as I've used recipes from this book, some of them have really surprised me, and they've given me ideas for other things. And by using plant-based foods, you will find your grocery bill coming down significantly. So even if you're only cooking plant-based once or twice a week, keep an eye on your budget and see what a difference it makes. And yet, if you use a recipe book like this, you can still very much be eating family favourites. So there's a recipe in here for quick puttanesca spaghetti, and I love puttanesca, and actually it doesn't really need anchovies. It can be plant-based and still be absolutely amazing. They also give you great ideas for things like burgers. So it's simple food, but also familiar food that helps us kind of transition into eating more plant-based. And then two sections I really like, which will help spice up your plant-based cooking. One is all the sauces. So there's a load of ideas for different sauces in here, and sauces make a huge difference to all cooking. So there's a whole range of sauces in this cookery book. And then if you're a hummus fan, you'll be very pleased to know that there's a double-page spread in this cookbook called All the Hummus. So it's a fantastic, accessible, plant-based cookbook, and cooking more plant-based will save you money. So make sure in your frugal cookbook library you have a plant-based cookbook. And my sixth category for cookbooks that save you money is to get yourself a cookbook that focuses on a pantry-based cooking style. So where there are lots of recipes that use things that you can stock up in your pantry, that you can buy in bulk, and then you're just adding a few fresh foods to, so that it's quick and easy and fresh and delicious. So that you've got something very simple at home, and that means that you don't rush off to the supermarket. And we all know when we rush off to the supermarket, we don't come back with just that one thing for this evening's dinner. At least that's true for me. So supermarkets are great at getting us to buy more and more stuff, and I will always come home and have spent more money than I wanted to. So to have a cookery book where you know you've got some pantry-based recipes that will spark those creative ideas, and that you can make really simple food in the week, is fantastic. And my favourite is by Donna Hay, and it's called Off the Shelf. And this book is brilliant for giving you lots and lots of simple, quick ideas with a small number of ingredients. So for those days when you want to cook for yourself but you're not feeling very creative, you just want something fairly simple to put together but still gives you that zing, that excitement, and that everyone will enjoy the food you're serving up. So with this book, there's a kind of learning process as you go through it of what you might need in a pantry store cupboard to help you cook up meals, and what are some of the fresh ingredients that you might buy and have in your mind as needing every week, so that you know you've got some recipes you can cook up. And I love the different sections in the book. So for example, there's a whole section on noodles. Noodles are a very cheap food to have. If I just choose one page, Page 58 here, we've got honey seared salmon with coriander noodles. We've got Asian chicken noodle soup, noodle salad with crisp tofu, and chili cashew chicken noodles. Oh, they're good. I've made 3 of those and they are good. So make sure you have a good pantry-based book with lots of recipes, with an author that knows how to sprinkle in those extra bits to keep your cooking fun and frugal. And then my final category is to have a cookery book that focuses on one-pot dishes. One-pot dishes are fantastic. So they're going to save you money in the cooking itself because everything is done in one pot. You either only have this in your oven maybe, but perhaps more frugally in a slow cooker, or my favourite is to cook in the Instant Pot. And if you get yourself a cookery book that's all about one-pot cooking, these recipes are easily adapted to use with a pressure cooker or a slow cooker, which are huge money-saving gadgets that we can use. And the one-pot cookbook that I like, this is my smallest cookbook selection, and it's by BBC Good Food, and it's just called One-Pot Dishes. Most of these recipes can be found on the internet, by the way, on the BBC Good Food website. So a lot of recipes in this book are really simple, nice midweek supper kind of meals. And again, for you growers out there, we're always looking for the green bean recipes. This is a great one. And as well as one-pot dishes, this book also has a lot of tray bake dishes. So same thing, one oven, one tray, not much washing up. We can just put the food in there and wait for it to be ready. So find yourself a good recipe that is all about one pot tray bake, so that you're only using one source of fuel when you're cooking up, and ideally a one-pot cookbook that has a lot of saucepan-based stews, soups, risottos, where you can translate these recipes and make them in the pressure cooker or the Instant Pot, and that will save you even extra money on the one pot itself. So that's my 7 kinds of cookbooks to help you save money. I'll list the cookbooks below, but really you may not like the same kind of food as me. So have a think about the categories themselves and have a look at your cookbook collection and see if you have cookery books that fit into these kinds of categories. And if you haven't, let that be your next cookery book purchase, or save yourself some money and get a cookery book out the library. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I upload videos every week, so don't forget to give this a like if you did like it, and if you subscribe and press the little bell button, you'll get an alert when I upload my next video next week. So I look forward to seeing you next time.